Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs. Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, that was an interesting introduction, Tom.
Well, sometimes technology doesn't always work. You click a button and you expect a result. Sometimes you don't get the result that you were expected. And probably was I realized as I hit us to start that, and people will enjoy this, that I hadn't gone back because we were discussing what should our topic be today? And we knew it was going to be about overwhelm, but it was about what else around overwhelm. And so I hadn't filled out the whole description. So you may notice the description is a little blank. And as I hit start, I was like, oh no. And then I tried to stop it and that didn't work. And so anyhow, I was a little overwhelmed for a minute, which is appropriate for a week that we're talking about overwhelm. So good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Brush. This is Bob Graham. And
hey, you didn't even comment that I'm in the palatial Breakthrough Solutions corporate offices.
Well, I was so overwhelmed with my technology
with your own stuff.
Yes, I was a little focused on, how am I going to explain that away? That'll be an interesting one.
Well, and that's a great example of, Tom, about what we've been talking about all week. You got overwhelmed with the technology and didn't see something that literally was right before your eyes, because I've never done a broadcast with this background.
Well, not a broadcast of today's Antidote.
Correct.
But other broadcasts. So that for me, it wasn't brand new. I was just like, oh, hey, it's not his backyard, not his back porch, which is all right. So anyhow, everyone, this is today's Antidote. We do this every day and Saturdays, every weekday and Saturdays, as a way to help business owners, nonprofit leaders, organizational leaders, people who are just trying to figure out how to take their next step because they're renegades. And they don't want to just be caught in the box of everyone else, trapped in an echo chamber. They're looking to find their own unique pathway to success. And so every day we try to provide that one thing that might help them move forward today, or maybe someday down the line where they get stuck and they can take something they heard today to help them move forward. And one of the things we've started to realize is that while Bob and I always have one thing every day, we know that viewers take away their own thing because they're real. And so it's a little different. So if you have something that you'd like to share as what your one thing is today, please put it in the comments, either live, and I'm sure we'll comment on it, or if you're watching this as a replay, post it in the comments and say, yeah, I was watching this later and here's the one thing that I had as a takeaway. So anyhow,
hey, Tom, let me give you an example because Michael's already weighed in. Overwhelmed with a blank topic is a perfect topic to discuss. So he's tracking with us.
There we go. Yeah, maybe that is exactly the point. Is there's overwhelm. Now what? Anyhow,
and then Carrie says, "Here, I'll put a little happier spin on things." Carrie says, "Good morning, Bob and Tom. I like that she puts me first. Happy terrific Thursday." So that I love that, Carrie. That's what that made me smile. So thank you for that. So keep going, Tom. Sorry.
That's all right. Very good interruptions. So anyhow, our topic is how to deal with overwhelm. And maybe the best answer is blank. There's some fortunate part of the way this all has played out.
Or a series of blanks in a row.
I know. Anyhow, so we want to talk a little bit about that. And I think, it's something that each and every one of us deal with probably on a pretty regular basis. And I think one of the challenges is that what do we do when we reach that point? we talked a little bit earlier in the week about what it is, how it comes up, why it matters. So now I think it's a little bit, how do we deal with it? How do we address what's going on? You want to share a little bit about that, Bob?
Sure, Tom. This one's awkward for me, but I'll power through it because it's good for the cause. So this morning I woke up around 6 o'clock. I usually wake up around 6:30, and I was like totally panicked, overwhelmed with the idea that we have a workshop series next week, and I know Tom and I will talk about that a little later. And there was something that we were supposed to do to promote it. There was an email that we were supposed to send out to our database. And I don't know how it happened, but one of us was going to do it and the other was going to do it. And it just never got done. And I got paralyzed with the overwhelm this morning. It's like, oh, we're not going to have enough people. We didn't tell people. We messed this up. And I had about 15 minutes in bed where I was really, really panicked, like sweating, like not really able to move forward. And then it occurred to me, wait a second. You were supposed to write the email. What if you got up, got dressed, and wrote the email? And once I sat down to my computer and started writing the email, it was like all the overwhelm disappeared. It was like, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Is it 3, 4, 5 days too late? Absolutely. I can't fix that. But in that moment of writing that email, I was taking a decisive action to overcome the overwhelm. And I think that's the thing that I'm realizing is overwhelm. And I did a video on it yesterday, I think you may have seen, and you can go into our Facebook group, the Ring of Renegades, and see it. But where overwhelm stands in the way of our success, it literally puts up this wall. And so this morning, it was like, how do I break through the wall? Oh, I take the first action. And then you take the second action. So I sent the email to you to look over. And the third action will be to put it into our software. And the fourth action will be send the email out. Now, I was overwhelmed. I'll admit it. I was doing other things yesterday. I was obsessed with this video thing that I'm trying to do, and it was consuming me. And so I had very tunnel vision for a day and a half, which isn't uncommon. I mean, I think sometimes it's like a chew toy. You grab the chew toy and you're not going to let go of it until you've chewed it to death. I had a chew toy. And I think the more I recognize the things that come along, and for me, it's shiny objects that are technology based.
Really?
Well, but that's a great thing to recognize. So if you, like last week, you said to me, hey, have you heard of Clubhouse?
Right.
Remember that?
I do.
I immediately was like, ooh, wow. Tom's bringing up something I don't know. Let me investigate it. I let it go. I have not done anything with Clubhouse. I couldn't tell you a thing about Clubhouse because I know that is the area where I'm going to fall into the trap of overwhelm. So much to do, and that's not good. Clubhouse is going to make or break my business this week. It's just not.
Right.
It's a nice toy, but it's not really what we're looking for. So, Tom, I see that there's some comments. I'm going to pop them in. Carrie said, I found out that it's okay to come out of my box of daily comfortability. Wow, she's giving me the big words this morning. I change when we change when we change up our daily routine. Yes, I think that's one of the things when you're overwhelmed, change it up. Tim giving me the quote, I had a chew toy. The people that know me really well would know that that's the most true thing I've ever said. Carrie says, oh my gosh, Bob, I've done the same exact thing. You feel so much better when putting your feet into action. The overwhelm gets lifted. Glad you stopped sweating over it, he. And then Michael added, we got some great comments today. This is what I like. This is my favorite part. Michael said, under pressure, results sometimes produce the best results. Thinking changes through adrenaline. Sometimes in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have felt there's something about my makeup that forever I have felt really hard to focus until I'm under pressure. And at one point I thought like that was it. That was the way to do things. And what I realized is that for some things, yes, For other things, no, because it was not ended up being my best work. Usually what came out of it were some really good ideas, poorly put together. And had I done that earlier, set it aside, come back to it, I find that that's when I'm able to really make a difference. And it's interesting. I think for me, it's different if I'm writing or if I'm doing something like video. For me, video, I would much rather spend 2 seconds 5 seconds thinking about what am I going to say, and then just get on and say it. Because I think it's more real. It just flows a little bit better. If I'm working from a script or this long set of notes, I struggle because I'm feeling like it's got to be perfect. And I think because we're speaking, having it be perfect is not necessarily as important. We still want to get the message across. We still want to do whatever. When I do that, when I'm writing, it's not the same. It's not even close to where I want it to be because we evaluate those two things differently. And so I think, yes, as Michael says, under pressure, sometimes you have really great results. And sometimes I feed off of that. Okay, the workshop or the presentation is tomorrow. Let me sit down and really focus on what I want to do. And other times I get it done. It's just not to the level that I might have hoped it would have been.
Can I ask you a question, Tom?
Oh, Lord. Yes, of course. I know you've been dying for this for forever.
Forever. That's right. Maybe it's the new corporate offices. They're empowering me to ask the big question. So it occurred to me that you said you work well under pressure. Is it possible that when you're under pressure, you either let go of the results and are more free because you don't have all the distracting thoughts, or is your evaluation of the result, do you grade it on a curve because I only had 12 hours to do this, I only had a day to do this, even though you may have had 4 months?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's the second.
Okay.
Because I would grade myself. I'm not sure. I would grade myself as hard whether or not I had it done 4 months ago or I did it in the last hour. I think that for me, it's just about a mindset of being focused on what I need to do. And it's maybe a little overwhelmed that I feel like I've got 8 things to do. And in those 8 things, which one I can put this one off because I don't need it for 4 more days. And I think sometimes in my mind, justify some things that aren't as pressing that I do rather than those things that are probably not as the return on investment isn't going to be as great as some of those other things that it would be greater. And so I probably push them off a little bit.
Let me throw in a couple comments. Carrie adds another variable. Give me a challenge and under pressure and I get it done. Other than that, I get bored real easy. Is your waiting till the last minute a way to avoid getting bored?
That's a good question. I don't think that, I don't know.
It's hard.
What's that?
Now you know how I feel. Isn't this hard?
I don't mind. I think it makes me think a little bit about it. My problem is I'm not sure I have any answers in regards to it because I don't think I'm bored. I think my mind gets like last night I was supposed to write a LinkedIn post. I'm in this group and I'm supposed to have it done every day by like 9 o'clock. And I was just done. The day was long. I just got to the point where, I just can't focus. And if I do it tomorrow morning, I'm not going to feel great about it and it'll be okay. It won't, the world's not going to end if I don't put that post up. And I got up this morning and I knew that I had to get it done before this because right after this, I've got a meeting and I was able to just okay, I know what I'm going to say and I put it down. So I think sometimes the more time I have, the more time it's hard for me to pull it all together. And so I don't know. That maybe didn't answer your question.
Michael has a thought. Good point. Adrenaline produces results because it changes things up, thinking outside of the box. So perhaps adrenaline, maybe you like that adrenaline rush. And I'm the same way. I come from a background of journalism, writing for newspapers. Nothing was better than when the 3-alarm fire was, 2 hours before deadline. You had to go out there, you had to take pictures, you had to run back to the office, and you're writing this story, and they're like, you have 12 minutes, you have 6 minutes. Nothing's better. I mean, I love that. Give me one of those today at 9:30 and watch how I'm the calmest guy in the world. Give me 6 months to do something, I'm not nearly as calm because it's hanging over my head that whole time. That's just me. And I think the thing, and Michael says it can be good or bad. I think the thing that we're really getting at, Tom, and I think it's been great that you and I have each given examples and sort of talked a bit about how we approach it, is everyone's different. We're all dealing with overwhelm in different ways. What I think I would say, and we can come back to this with our one thing in a minute, but what I would say is it's understanding yourself is really the key to overcoming overwhelm. I'll throw in Carrie's comment. I'm actually a lot better now. I get lost with the technology part of growing my business, and it leaves me confused on who to reach out to for guidance. Oh boy, Carrie, you and me. We could start a support group. Technology Shiny Objects Anonymous. I do research it too, and it leaves me more confused. LOL. And I think that's one of the things that we often see in people is they get something that they want to figure out, and then they start to get into it, and it gets more complicated than what they anticipated.
Sure.
In fact, I talk about that with my little project in our Renegade Way that's coming out on Saturday. Look at that for a nice little tease for our newsletter.
It's you. You got it going on.
It's like this stuff's all spinning around itself.
Well, I think it's true. I mean, the more you want to do, the more you have to do, the more you have to figure out when you're going to get it done. And I think, or are you going to do it at all? Like, that's the other piece of it, is I think your decision not to dive into Clubhouse was probably a really good one. And I think that when we look at those things, because those are things that will cause overwhelm, because you'll get into it. Or like your video yesterday, you said you got very focused in it, which is good, because you are focused on what you're trying to accomplish at the moment, knowing that tomorrow that might come up with things that haven't been done, that need to be done, or you want to have done.
And it was a calculation.
Sure.
This video has a lot of potential in a lot of different ways. So I could say the investment of time was going to yield me a great result. You're already, based on me doing it, you're already thinking about how to do it. So not only is it helping me, it's helping you, and it could help other people.
Right. Well, and I think that's the thing, is we see those things, that therein lies the challenge, right? Is what we see going to help us or hurt us? I wrote about this. My LinkedIn post was about that we only have 100%. That when people say I'm going to give 110%, they're lying, because it's not true. You can't do it. Just like with our business, we only have a defined amount of time. How are we going to spend it? And if we haven't chosen, like, what are, as I used in my article, 3 big rocks, what are the 3 things you're going to focus on? And when you put those in your time jar, especially if you've allocated how much time you should spend on those, there's not a whole lot of time left. And if you're bringing in something new, what are you taking out? Because otherwise, you can't add it in. You don't have 100% and 10% of your time. You're just going to lead to more overwhelm and not getting what you really thought you wanted to get done.
Can I go back to your original statement in that little explanation of the rocks, which is, you said we only have a limited amount of time. I think one of the things that entrepreneurs often struggle with is they don't feel that limited amount of time. They don't feel like I want to work from 12 to 8 or 8 to 4. The time extends, especially when we're working at home. It's easy to extend. I can come out on my porch and work at midnight. No one's going to stop me.
Yes.
When I was in my office, it was harder because I had to get my car and drive 15 minutes to my office. And there were days where I'd leave my computer in the office so that I couldn't come home and work. We've lost that. And I think we tend to add time. So where do we add time? We work in the evening after the kids go to bed, or while we're watching a football game, or we work on Saturday, or
Correct.
we work on Sunday. And those are choices we make. But I don't know how many entrepreneurs really draw a line and say, for me to be effective in my business and to make the return on my investment, I should work 47 hours. Here's those 47 hours, and I'm going to get my work done in that way. Because when we work for another company and they say, Bob, you get paid for 40 hours, you know me, I'm looking at the clock. If I stay late Monday, I'm like, hey, can I leave early Friday?
Yeah.
I don't hear entrepreneurs do that. Do you?
No. And there's only 24 hours in the day. Even if you choose to work 20 of them, that you only have 20 hours. How are you going to fill those up? We don't have 25 hours in a day. You can't add time in that regard. So yes, could an entrepreneur choose to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? They could. They probably wouldn't last very long. At some point we have to sleep, eat. At some point have to go to the bathroom, all those things. And so that's when I think about time, is like, how much time have I dedicated to my business? Doesn't mean it's 40 hours. Doesn't mean it's 60 hours. We each get to choose what that is. And at some point, whatever that is, that's all we have. We can't add time. There's just no, unless someone's got a time turner. I'm a Harry Potter fan, so there was a little machine you could turn it and get a couple hours back and figure out how to do more.
Never read them, never saw the movies, so I got nothing.
Yeah, you're missing out. Anyhow.
So I'm told.
So I think that's the key, though, is that at some point there is a limit of time. Whatever you choose. And the beauty of being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, you get to choose how much that is. And at some point, that's what it is. There is no more. How are you going to then fill it up? And I think the challenge is we believe, oh, I've got extra time. I'll just work at night. I'll work over the weekends. Is that really extra time, or is that time borrowed from something else, from your family, from being outside, from other activities that you enjoy?
It also causes me to feel overwhelmed.
Correct.
When I take that time, when I'm not able to spend time with my wife, when the kids next door want to go out and play basketball, and I'm like, guys, I got to work for another hour, I feel overwhelmed. Like, oh, now I'm pulled in several directions. And that's not a comfortable feeling to me. I think it's a reality, but it's not something I enjoy and not something I look forward to at all. And I think that's something that there's a point with an entrepreneur where you have to work. And I'm not saying you should work 10 hours and get everything done, because that's not going to be realistic. There are weeks where you work 60 hours. There are weeks where you work 3 hours. That's
Correct.
The reality. But having more of a sense of control over it. What is reasonable? What does this look like? I'm talking and trying to do two things at once. I was trying to figure out who said that comment. We have a comment in there, oh, this is hitting home.
Well,
that's from John Hansen, who marvels at my ability to try to stop working at 6 p.m. on weekdays, and really he'll give me a hard time on the weekends because I won't return his text. I'll just be like, you know what? My time. Love you, dude, but this is time I'm devoting to whatever it is, reading the paper, going for a hike, doing groceries. And I try, for me, separating those two. You could say, well, you're at the grocery store, you could take a call. No, I want to be fully invested in the grocery store. And that's me. Someone else might go, oh, I'll take calls 24 hours a day. That's them.
It's what's real for each of us. It's why we're all unique, because we are all going to look at that situation and be different. Everyone has a different situation. Some people have kids. Some people don't. Some people have a spouse. Some people don't. Some people love to work, so they work all the time. Okay, great. At some point, we have 24 hours in a day. And especially if you're working for yourself, you get to choose how you're going to do them. If you're working for someone else, you've got 40 hours dedicated to them. They get to choose what you're doing there, mostly. Now you have the rest of that time to figure out what are you going to do with that time. So I think that was the point initially I was just trying to make, is that ultimately there is a cap, and we can only pour so many things into our jar as we try to figure out how we're going to make it work. So
awesome, Tom. What's the one thing you have today? I'm thinking I'll do mine.
Go ahead and do yours.
Okay. So the one thing to me is recognizing what causes you to be overwhelmed. What are those things that bring you to overwhelm? Because if you can arrest it before it happens. So last week for me, Clubhouse. It was a technology thing, and I immediately had to go, nope, I'm not going down this rabbit hole. Even when you posted something that said, hey, do you use Clubhouse? That I was like so close to taking an hour or two to figure it out. Had I done that, I wouldn't have gotten where I got this week, which is huge progress on so many levels. So knowing what you're really, what the triggers are for overwhelm. You know, and as for other people, to give an example from someone else I know, the trigger for this person is when they have to do childcare during the workday. Sure. So occasionally their child gets sick, or for a lot of people right now, homeschooling because of the virtual classrooms. And you're working at home and your kids are at home, and at 9:37, your child wants you to help them with an assignment, or their technology doesn't work. That's causing a lot of people overwhelm. Knowing that going into it, and I have a niece who is telling me that she and her husband rotate days. You get to work through today, you deal with the kids. Tomorrow, I'll deal with the kids if something comes up, you work. And that's their way to overcome that overwhelm, because for a couple of months, they were both constantly going, I can't get anything done.
Right.
So once you figure out what it is, you can strategize around it.
Yeah, I like that. And I would go back to your first, I would just add to go back to your first comment of what you did this morning. You know, if we're talking about how to deal with overwhelm, take a step. Might not be the perfect step, might not be the right step, but it'll at least put you into action and give you a chance to try to overcome that overwhelm. So everybody, thanks for paying attention today. And
wait, I want to throw one more comment in, because I don't get support. You know, Carrie supports me 100%. We need balance in our work hours. If I am good to my business will be good to me. I think that's a great closing thought.
It is a great. I'm glad that you feel like you're getting some support, Bob. That's.
I only do this for the affirmation.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks again for joining us. Well, you know, and thanks for all your great comments. As we always say, this is great. If you have your one thing, please feel free to share it in the comments below. Post it in whether the Ring of Renegades Facebook group or page, Bob, or my page, Bob Pacey, wherever you're seeing this. Please feel free to share. And I would also suggest, if you're not in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, these are the conversations we're having. This is how we're trying to help people move forward. And so I hope that if you're not, you will consider joining that group. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades. It's a private group because we want a community, and a community of people who are willing to work to help move themselves forward. And all you have to do is ask to be invited or be included, and just tell us why you're a renegade. That's what we're looking for. We want to know what kind of drives people. So go to Facebook and join that group and be a part of it. So hopefully we will see you inside of there, or we'll see you tomorrow morning for our next edition of Today's Antidote, Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And as Bob mentioned earlier, we do have a workshop coming up that we would love for you to come and be a part of. And so I'm going to share a little more information about that in a video as we leave. Have a great day, everyone. Try to deal with the overwhelm and really remember how much time you actually have. Have a great day.
What's your next destination? "2020 was a challenging year for business owners, leaders, and nonprofits. Whether it was a boom, a bust, or a pivot to something new, on December 31st we all reached a destination along our pathway. Whether you sprinted to year-end, took a much-needed break, or created new goals, intentions, or resolutions. Now it is time to chart your next destination with new knowledge, experience, and perspective. Given all that has happened this year, are you clear on what is real for your audience? What to say, how to say it, and where to say it? No matter how your year went, being clear on these things is critical. Even if you have already set long-term goals, taking the next steps can be challenging and confusing. Who can predict what things will look like in the next 3 to 6 months? Charting our next destination provides focus, clarity, and direction. On January 18th to 21st, join our workshop where we will help you identify what your audience needs, craft a message to reach them, and determine where to find them. This interactive and collaborative effort will have you ready to take your next step. Chart your next destination and your unique pathway to